Welcome to one of the most listened to music news podcasts in the world, SGNP, with your host, Darren Sutherland. Join us as we talk with industry leaders, artists, and entertainers about their faith, family, and careers. This is information you will not find anywhere else on radio, web, or in a magazine, but only firsthand on SGNP.
SGNP is brought to you by Toccoa Falls College in Toccoa Falls, Georgia. More information on TFC, call 706-886-7299 or visit them online at tfc.edu. That's tfc.edu. Since 1907, TFC, glorifying God through seeking and developing leaders who will impact the world for Jesus Christ.
Consider all the worlds thy hands have made. I see the stars, and I hear the rolling thunder. Thy power throughout the universe displayed. When Christ shall come, he'll come with a shout of acclamation. He's gonna take me home. Oh, what joy, well, it shall fill my heart. And then I shall bow, I'll bow and humble adoration.
Welcome once again to SGNP. Darren Sutherland and our co-host Arthur Rice. Arthur, how you doing, my man?
Hey, doing okay?
Man, I tell you what.
My full-time podcasting.
To full-time podcasting. I'm gonna let me tell you something. I looked at the numbers last week on Earl Galloway, and man, folks like that show. I mean, we didn't even have to do nothing. Matter of fact, I'm so sold on Earl that I'm thinking about firing me and you both and just letting Earl come in here and do a podcast every week. What do you think?
That might work. That might work. I had a bunch of great comments about it. Everybody was enjoying it.
Dude, how many questions did you ask last week?
None.
None.
I don't think.
I mean, 30 straight minutes. And somebody sent me a message on the Facebook. God, I'm sounding old. Message on the Facebook. Don't that sound old? Like I'm
on the Facebook, yeah.
On the Facebook. Somebody sent me a message and they said, are y'all going to do show number 2, part 2 with Earl? He didn't get to talk that long. And Lord, he talked 35 minutes and never hushed one bit.
He took one breath.
What? Yeah. You know what, man? He had me sucked in there. I was loving it. I was listening to it, and then he brought up that Alpo thing, and that just lost me. I mean, that was. But it was funny. It was fun. But you know what, man? Lord works in mysterious ways. Who am I to say? You know what I'm saying. You know?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, things are like that sometimes. Things are like that. Hey, today got one of your buddies and one of your friends coming on. Tell us about him.
Yeah, we're continuing this. Where are they now?
Yeah.
And so we're talking to Pat Barker.
Pat Barker. Where's Pat at now?
Many of you remember Pat. He sang with the Dixie Echoes, and then he spent some time with Mark Trammell. So we'll get to catch up with him, see what he's doing now, and
ran up and down the road with the Diplomats for a while. You know.
That's right.
With Corey Pearson and those folks. Hey, got some Where Are They Now shows coming up. We've reached out to some of these folks. And, Arthur, let me tell you some of the people that I've reached out to trying to get them to come on with us. You want to hear some of the names?
Sure.
And some of them we may be able to get to. One of them I know in particular we'll be able to get on here is your old buddy G.E. Fox, Greg Fox. Where's Greg at now? Other than looking like the mountain man. If you've seen him on Facebook, he looks like what was he? Would his daddy have allowed him to play drums like that, looking in any such a way?
No, I don't think so.
Foxy wouldn't let it. But we're gonna have to get him up here and get with him. Kevin Spencer, you remember Kevin?
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Kevin's raising dogs now. We got to get.
Is that right?
Got to get him. Another folks we've reached out to, John and Jeff Reinhardt. What a way to go. John and Jeff Reinhardt. You remember those guys? They were.
Yeah.
They had a quick flash, didn't they? I mean.
Yeah, they were hot.
Another group, another person that was, and she said she'd think about it. She said she don't do much in the Southern gospel world anymore, but I talked to Miss Yvonne Henson Johnson. Now, folks would love to hear her, I believe, don't you?
I think so. Yes, I do.
I mean, really, really, really. I mean, the Hensons were one of those once-in-a-lifetime groups that you talk about, you know?
Yeah.
Another great person I think would be neat, and because he had a seat for magic is what I used to call it, because I never seen any group drum up more activity with one song than Stan Cook got to watch with the Magruders when Carol and his wife would start singing "I'm Going Home with Jesus." I mean, it didn't matter where they were at. From Six Flags to the Joyful Noise, the place would explode. And I'd love to get a hold of Stan and see how he played bumper cars in between those two, because that's what he did.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, you know, and there's some other guys. And if you want us to try to find somebody else, please shoot us information on Facebook at Southern Gospel News Podcast. You can find us there, or on Twitter, SGNP Podcast. But where are they now? So we got a great Where Are They Now show today. Pat Barker coming up with us in just a minute. And we'll be back on SGNP.
Hi, this is Toranda, and you're listening to SGNP.
Hey, this is Darren, and I'm here for my buddy Mike Lindell and My Pillow. That's right, My Pillow. I got to tell you a little secret, and this is a true story. The other day I'm laying in the bed, I looked at Mary and I said, I'm going to get me some new pillows today. She said, what do you need with new pillows? You got them. I said, I got one that's decent. And I didn't know which one it was. I mean, I knew which one it was, and I pulled the cover off of it, and it was only My Pillow. The rest of them were these ones that we bought from TJ Maxx or Target or Walmart or somewhere that just had worn out their welcome. And you know what, guys? I feel like I needed new pillows. And she said, well, why don't you call My Pillow, because you like the one you got there, and tell them what you're looking for, and they'll help you out. You know what I called, and guess what? They helped me out. They asked me what size I was. They asked me how I slept. Did I sleep on my back or on my side or on my stomach? What felt right? Feathers or, blah, 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 foam. They asked me all these questions. More questions than I ever dreamed about a pillow, and I got my new My Pillow in the mail, and I've slept right. You want that change in your life? It's real simple. 1-800-338-2330. 1-800-338-2330. Use the code word SGNP. That's right, the code word SGNP. And tell them you heard about this special offer. And when you use that code, you'll get a great discount from the folks at My Pillow. I use My Pillow. You should too. 1-800-338-2330. Use the code SGNP. My Pillow, the official pillow and sleep provider of Southern Gospel News Podcast.
Why do you think bank presidents and jewelry store owners trust ADT to protect their homes and businesses? Because they feel safe, and you can too. How would you like to monitor your home from fire, floods, and yes, robberies without even being there right from your smartphone? That is peace of mind. You may even save money on your homeowner's insurance just by having an ADT system installed. And there's even a money-back guarantee. How about that? We guarantee 100% satisfaction. You have nothing to risk. Why do you think people who have so much to protect trust ADT? Because it works. Call right now for a free quote. We'll even give you a free gift for calling. So pick up your phone and call Protect Your Home, an ADT authorized premier provider now.
800-584-2518. 800-584-2518. 800-584-2518. That's 800-584-2518.
And welcome back to SGNP. Darren Sutherland, my good buddy Arthur Rice. Arthur, you know what I went ahead and did right there today?
What's that?
Where are they now? I played your signature song there with the Kingsmen. The one where Hamill used to make you hold that note out. Because, we just, where are they? You don't do that with the Kingdom Heirs much anymore, do you?
Not a whole lot.
Every once in a while, you probably get somebody to request it.
Yeah, every once in a while I do, but not.
It is what it is, my friend.
Yeah.
Well, when you're a full-time podcaster, you don't sing much anymore anyway. So
that's right. Exactly right.
Arthur, we got one of your good buddies on here today. I'll let you have the honors of introducing him.
Yeah, we got Pat Barker. Pat, are you with us?
I am, and guys, I am revved up. It's an honor to be talking with you.
Man, it's great to have you on. We appreciate you coming on. Hey, Darren, I forgot. I was going to ask you a minute ago. You guys in Georgia, you're a couple weeks, into this kind of starting back up. How's Atlanta? How's your area?
You know what? If you go over there to Walmart, or if you go over to Home Depot, you wouldn't even know there was a pandemic in town. Okay, the only place they're having pandemics around here is at nursing homes, quite frankly. And unfortunately, that's where all Southern Gospel music fans are a lot of times. So we got to take care of those folks, Arthur, so they can get up there to Dollywood to see you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know. We opened up a couple weeks ago, and it's been the crowds in Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg. You can't get in Gatlinburg. They're wall to wall, just walking up down the streets, and you may see two people with a mask on. I think people are ready to get back to get back to doing stuff and get back to work. It's good to see businesses opening back up.
I do too. Hey, I noticed Libby Perry and the Perrys were out on the road traveling this weekend, and some other groups were traveling this weekend.
Several groups.
Yeah, and then poor old Karen Peck, her bus broke down when they got out of town.
Yeah, I think it set so long, probably.
Is that the worst feeling in the world, Arthur, is when you're traveling with a group and the bus breaks down?
Yes, absolutely it is. Especially if you're trying to get somewhere and you know that you can't get there. You know, it's a horrible feeling. It really is. And so
it is what it is. And then I noticed that Jason Clark and his lovely wife Kelly are having a big shindig out at the ranch coming up. They announced all that kind of stuff, and Jason's starting to be a beekeeper and all that kind of good stuff. So
poor Jason is about to put Kelly in the hospital herself because he won't be still. Now he's had all his surgery and stuff.
Would you have ever imagined in your dying days? Okay, now let's face it. Back when you was coming along with the Kingsmen, I mean, I know every single man in the business would look at the Nealons and they'd say, man, they got the prettiest girls out there in the whole business. Would you have ever imagined Kelly Nealon tending to horses and cows and chickens back in those days, 25, 30 years ago? Would you ever even thought of that?
No, not at all. And, Rex was raised that way, but no, not at all. Not even any of them.
And, I talked to Todd about once a week, and I always asked Todd, you going out there? He said, no, I've got no business going out there. I'm not a farmer. He says, they still own this house over here in Powder Springs, which is about 50 miles. He says, they call me to go over there and do last-minute things for them, and I ain't got time. Talking about where are they now, we need to get Todd on the show sometime.
Yeah.
Well, do y'all want me to just go on and call Todd?
Oh, man.
Did y'all
Well,
sorry, man. I forgot you were there.
Or I can call Libby or Karen or any of the other people y'all talked about here in the last, I think, 4 or 5 minutes.
Well, Pat, sorry, you always say ignore Pat Barker. So I was just doing what you said, friend.
We've had a little fun at your expense there, Pat. I'm sorry.
That's funny. Well, I'll get over it some year.
I intentionally left out the Guardians when we talked about who you'd sung with there. Just kind of, that's all.
And it is what it is. Hey, Pat, since we ain't ignoring you anymore, and we know where you are now. Okay, because you told me before the show you're no longer in Anniston, Oxford. You've moved over to Douglasville, Georgia. You've moved over to the good side of the country, so to speak.
Hey, where did this ignore Pat thing start? For those of you who don't,
it started with Neil. Neil. You're with the Guardians. He always called himself the other guy. Dean Hickman has this huge personality. People just love Dean, and everybody knew John Rousey, but nobody knew who Neil was. It was just he was the other guy. He emceed and he would sing some, but he just wasn't one of those guys that stood out front and everybody knew who he was. So when I came on board, he wasn't on Facebook, and Neil would sit there. He and I would get up really early, and he would sit and play a game or read a book, and I'd sit across from him and just stare at him like, I don't even think he knows I'm here. Like, he is completely ignoring the only other person on this bus. So I took a picture of him, put it on Facebook, and I said, I'm enjoying my fellowship with Neil and, stuff like that. And so then there was something where he had an iPad on his lap. He had a phone in one hand and a book in the other hand. And I said, the Ignore Pat Barker tour has really started to take off. And people caught on to that. They thought that was a funny line, and so people started shooting pictures to where I wasn't in the group. They'd take somebody's head and cover me up. And so Chris Taylor of the Taylors started the Ignore Pat Barker Facebook page. And so that gave a chance for everybody to put pictures of them ignoring me. It became a T-shirt. We have about 1,000 members now on the Facebook page who just put up pictures without me in them. I think it's hilarious. Now, it doesn't make for a great podcast, but
I don't know. We was doing pretty good there before you popped off.
I will say, I was sitting there thinking, God, I'm enjoying this. This is fun.
Hey, I get in trouble for saying stuff all the time. So, I mean, today's probably no different. So,
now, mind you, I was about to call all my family members and say, never mind, I'm not going to be on there. Y'all don't listen.
Well, Pat, let me ask you this. In all seriousness, when somebody hears about Pat Barker and they get to know Pat Barker, and I've heard this through just different channels of people and individuals, they say there hadn't been somebody to come along in a long time that has studied the artwork of Southern Gospel, has studied the education of Southern Gospel, has studied the history of Southern Gospel as good as Pat Barker has done in a short amount of time. Why do you think you're so attracted to doing that, and why have you done that? Because, my friend, I mean, when you think about bass singers, and bass singers of old, you think about the Big Chief, you think about George Jones, you think about London Paris, you think about J.D. You've brought a little bit of that character into your repertoire, so to speak. And this Ignore Pat Barker thing goes right along with some of the things that they used to do. So was all this intentional, or did it just evolve over time?
That's very kind. It was intentional. When my dad, I was 12 or 13, my dad loved quartet music, but I had never really heard it. I enjoyed, honestly, as a little kid, I was drawn to classical music. I played piano really young, and so I listened to classical music. I didn't listen to much of anything else, to be honest. And so my dad played me the Blackwood Brothers Live on Stage album. They recorded that in California. J.D. was on there, Bill Shaw was on there. And I listened to the whole album, and honestly, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I mean, I'd never heard a crowd reaction like that. I'd never heard people laugh that much at a concert. I'd never heard the high notes and the low notes. And, man, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And Daddy took me to hear the Masters 5 shortly after that. I mean, just weeks after that. And I was hooked. I knew that that's what I wanted to do. There was no doubt in my mind. And so really very intentionally, I studied everything about the genre, everything about the history. Daddy would tell me all of these great stories when he would go see the quartets, and Daddy sang too. So he would maybe open up if a group came locally, he might get to open up for them. And he would tell me stories of them backstage and on the bus and all of those kind of things. So, I just started studying singers, studying the audience, studying records and everything I could get my hands on. And to this day, honestly, every day there's not a day goes by that I don't click on YouTube. I don't do a search for some groups. I don't pull out a record or a cassette. You know, I still listen to cassettes and everything else. So it really was intentional for me to, if I was going to do it, I was going to do it with full knowledge of what I was getting into and full knowledge so that I could do it the best that God would allow me to do it.
Nice. Arthur, what you got?
That's awesome. Well, I agree. You know, we've discussed this before. Some of the things that, you know, are missing in our industry that we don't have anymore is those characters, and you know, all those, and that's what helps you remember people is the character that they were. And I think what you do is brilliant, Pat. It's not only are you a great singer and you know, you're a great singer, not just a bass singer. You're a great singer, and I think what you're doing is brilliant because it draws people in and lets them get close to you and love you, and that does a whole lot. And you got this new thing that you're doing, this records and road stories thing on Facebook now, which is really taking off, doing great.
It's really a lot of fun. I did it. Honestly, I'm downstairs in my basement a lot listening to records. I've got about 6,000 or so, And so I'm just listening a lot when my wife is at school teaching or the kids are out doing something, whatever. That's kind of what I do for a hobby. And so when this quarantine hit, I thought, why not just let people in on it? And then, Gerald Wolfe came on that first show, and Danny Funderburg, we talked about Symphony of Praise with the Cathedrals. And then I called Buddy Burton, we talked about Masters 5. And so I've had a ball, honestly, talking to so many of these heroes of mine and looking back at these records and hearing how much people miss that sound of that vinyl. I mean, there's just something about it. When that needle hits that vinyl and that song starts on, I mean, there's just something about it. So it's been a lot of fun. And there's other people who do that. I mean, Les Butler does a lot of live, and Charlie Sexton. There's my friend Nicholas Arthur. We've got the same Nicholas there, plays a lot of live albums on his Facebook page. But it's just a chance to kind of talk to the guys and ladies who are on those records, hear some of their stories, play those songs, and then I show a lot of my memorabilia that I've collected over the years. So, the show is usually about 20, 25 minutes, and it's a lot of fun for me, and I'm glad that other people have kind of caught on to it.
It's funny. When Arthur and I started this, I guess about 18, 19 months ago, wasn't it, Arthur? It was... We've kind of seen it evolve, so to speak. Going from this right here. I mean, and yes, we've had but here's what I love about social media. It connects us no matter where we are or what we're doing. You follow me? I could be sitting here in a pair of shorts with a tank top on, and you could be sitting there in a tie, and we could just be having a great conversation. Where if 20 years ago we'd have TV cameras on us, and your grandmother and my grandmother would be looking at them and say, look at that sinner with them shorts on and that tank top talking about gospel music. Matter of fact, his hair is touching his collar. Oh, he don't even have a collar on. He's got a tank top on. So, it's...
Well, if you don't mind, I prefer to visualize you in a tie instead of a tank top.
There we go. I don't blame you.
I'm just going to keep thinking suit and tie.
There we go. Hey,
it's funny because I lead the music at my church. Yeah. My wife and I lead the music on Sundays, and so here for the last 10 or 11 weeks, I've been having to do everything from the basement. And so I'll have on my jacket, my shirt, my tie, and then I have on a pair of shorts.
Yeah.
Ain't no way I'm putting on a pair of suit pants if they're not going to see them.
I saw a video. I don't even remember who it was. I was just kind of going through, and there's a preacher preaching. He had a suit and tie on, and they pulled back too far on the camera, and he had a pair of shorts on.
Hey,
right there.
Hey, Pat,
he must have made the cameraman mad.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about history, because you're such an aficionado of gospel music history, and people love it. I'm going to bring up some bass singers' names, and I want you to give us just a little short what your thoughts are on them. Is that fair enough? And then Arthur, feel free to...
I'll do my best.
All right. J.D. Sumner.
Entertaining. He was very down to earth, but you also felt like you were watching a superstar. That was how I felt about JD. He was the first one I ever saw, and I saw him more than any of them. And when he'd take those slides, those 2-octave slides, you're sitting in that seat, and man, you just can't believe it. And he's just bigger than life on that stage. But then he'd walk behind that table, and he'd take his time with you, and he'd talk to you, and he'd sign your pictures, and you just felt like he was paying attention to you and that you mattered to him. And to watch him at his age, the Stamps would come out there and do 2.5 hours if they were by themselves and just give it absolutely everything they had. So I had great respect for JD.
You know what I always thought about JD, Arthur, and Pat, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I always think of this word right here when somebody describes JD, real. We get in this this clique, and people say, "Oh, they're real." JD was the same JD on stage as he was off stage a lot of time, and I've heard a lot of stories, good and bad. I've read the stories of JD in Gaither's book, where Gloria and JD didn't see eye to eye, but then at the end, and we think about the biggest JD thing I ever remember, Arthur, and I know you remember, and Pat, you may have been there, is when JD called Michael English to the stage at the National Quartet Convention in Louisville that night.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's the only one in the world that could have done it. Wouldn't you agree, Arthur?
Yes. Yeah. What was it he said? He said, "What are they going to do? Fire me?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Only JD could have done that.
only JD. Next name, the Big Chief.
Yes.
Rhythm. I mean, he was Mr. Rhythm. He was Mr. Smooth. He was Mr. Cool. I mean, he was just, he was everything you would want in a gospel music bass singer. I mean, he had everything.
Yeah. Have y'all ever heard?
And he had range too. I mean, he could sing those high songs. He could sing the low stuff. He could do a recitation.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, it was limitless what Chief could do.
Yeah.
Have y'all ever heard the record of when Big Chief directed the choir at First Assembly of God in Atlanta years ago?
Oh, yeah.
That's
absolutely.
I mean, I think when I hear that record, and yes, we know that you can change things in a studio, but you can't change choir music that well in a studio back in the 60s, early 70s.
No,
it just can't be done. But he may have been just as good a choir director, is what I tell folks, as he was a singer. And just such a personality with that pencil mustache. I wonder, did he do that on purpose, guys? I mean, do you know? Do you think, or do you?
I think they all did that. Every one of them had pencil mustaches back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Denver started that. Like, Denver is like the first. He was a tenor, but he was like one of the first ones that I remember having that pencil mustache. And it seems like everybody else kind of followed suit.
Now, are you ever going to bring that back, Pat, and wear that pencil mustache? I know our buddy with, what's his name, Gene, what's his name does it. But are you ever going to do that pencil mustache? Gene McDonald does it. Yeah,
I'm thinking about it, but I'm just going to use a Sharpie. I don't want to have to wash it all the time. So I'm just going to go for it.
Arthur, pull a name out. Give him one.
Here's a good one. Jimmy Jones.
Jimmy Jones. Wow. Okay. Talk about a guy who could talk about recitations. Jimmy Jones could do recitations. And I think Jimmy Jones is the reason Rex Nealon was as good as he was.
Yeah.
I think Rex got a lot from Jimmy, and Rex was my dad's favorite bass singer. But boy, Jimmy Jones is not a name that I hear a lot.
No.
You know what? Let me tell y'all something about Jimmy. Y'all gonna
bass singers know who he is, though.
Yeah, they do.
Oh, absolutely.
Jimmy, back when I was on the radio years ago, I can tell you two stories about Jimmy real quick. It was awesome. Number one, Jimmy was my 5th grade vacation Bible school teacher at Mount Pisgah Baptist Church on Bankhead Highway in Mableton, Georgia. And at the time, I had no idea who he was, but he was just a man that would come up there and help the teachers and lead us in songs and then teach us a Bible story every day. And they said he's got to leave. He's got to leave Thursday. He's not going to be here Friday because he's got to go on the road. And we're like, who is this guy? You know, and then I got a chance to get to know him 20 years later, and just a great fella. Great.
Yeah.
Jimmy was a good guy. Just a real good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never did get to meet him personally, but I heard incredible things about him as a person.
Here's one I want to ask you about, because I'm not as familiar with him as others, but I've heard he is the lowest of all time, and, I've heard JD's the lowest. But was London Paris actually a lower bass singer than JD? And no offense to anybody, it's a contest, just like who the best third baseman is in baseball. We can debate that forever. But did London actually sing lower than JD, or was he?
Well, to stay out of trouble,
yeah,
I'll use JD's words. JD said that London, if he could have learned to relax, London would have been the lowest bass singer in the world. He said that London would tighten up a little bit.
Yeah.
And if you'll watch London, and I've always said this, I think there are bass singers out there that are much better singers than others, but because of the way they are perceived, they're not held in as high a regard. And I think sometimes London was thought of as kind of, goofy act, and he would make all these goofy kind of things. What he was doing was trying to relax. I mean, he was trying to just, shake the dust off a little bit. And JD said that if he had relaxed, if he had learned kind of that technique, then he would have absolutely been the lowest bass singer in the world. And that's what JD said.
Nice.
Yeah. Story about London. London is from Asheville originally, or Alexander, North Carolina, just down the road from where. So I knew London, but I knew his brother Rex more than I knew London. I didn't really get to know London until I was with the Kingsmen, but I'd known Rex for years. Rex sang bass. Rex was actually lower than London.
Wow.
But he didn't have that charisma that London had.
Right.
And that was the kind of the difference in that. And in fact, London, I talked to London 2 days before he passed away. It was right before I came with the Kingdom Heirs, and he called me and said, "Hey, Rice, I'm thinking about starting a group." He said, "Would you sing lead for me?" I said, "Man, whenever you're ready, you let me know." And then 2 days later, he passed away. So,
wow.
London was a great guy, but his brother Rex was his whole family was just wonderful folks, but
I'll be.
But just great bass singers.
Yeah, London was an incredible. Well, when I'll go back on YouTube and watch the Rebels when Hamill was with them, and I mean, he's nowhere near that microphone, and you can hear him over everyone.
Buzzsaw.
Oh, it's unbelievable. And, Billy Todd was a lot like that. If you watch those old Florida Boys clips, he's 2 or 3 feet from the mic.
Yeah.
And blending perfectly. And there was just those guys who just had it. And London was certainly one of them.
Throw a last name out there. Arthur, you mentioned the word charisma, and we could not have a discussion on gospel music bass singers without bringing this guy up, the Cathedral's George Younts.
He was my favorite, obviously. When I would go into this, I had a friend named Phil Waits in Oxford, and he had this little recording thing in his basement. Now I'm 16, 17, my voice had just changed. I'd been listening to tenors and trying to figure out, Danny Funderburk and all these guys. And so he really helped me. He took me in his basement. He would record me singing along with George, so that I could try to learn some of the inflections, see what George was doing, try to match those high harmonies that George would do. And so I finally got to see him live. They came to Gadsden, Alabama every April. And so I went to see him, and they did a Q&A. I'll never forget this. They sang about an hour and a half, hour and 45, and then they just sat down on the edge of the stage, and they did a Q&A with the audience instead of an intermission. And so I raised my hand, a goofy kid, and I said, "What does it take to get in this business?" I mean, that was my, So George says, "Man, just sing everywhere you can. Even if they don't ask you to sing, sing. Take every opportunity you can. Study." I mean, he gave me a great answer. And after the concert, I went up to the stage because George would stay up front and the guys would go to the table. So I went to the stage, I shook his hand, and I said, "Thank you, it was great to see you, enjoyed it, And George patted me on the face, and he said, "I don't know why I'm telling you this, but I just know that one day you're going to be on a stage doing the exact same thing I did tonight. And I don't know why I'm telling you that." That's what he said to me.
Wow.
And it was 20 years later that we did the Cathedral family reunion. And I'm standing there singing Wedding Music, which was a song they started off that night. And it hit me like a ton of bricks that something George had said 20 years before literally came true, where I'm standing on the stage with Mark and Danny and Gerald and Ernie and Scott. And I was just overwhelmed at that moment with where God had brought me from a kid raising his hand, asking to he just wants to sing. And then 20 years later, there I was with those guys. So George is always going to be my favorite. I thought he did everything perfect. He was the best MC. He was the best at testimonies. He was the best talking to the crowd and singing and the solos, and the low notes were always just phenomenal. And so he'll always be the one I look to as kind of the standard bearer.
Pat, before we get out of here, and the last question we'll leave you with today, I want to ask you the same thing you asked George. If a young person or a singer today came up to you and said, what do they need to do to make it in gospel music? One of the things Arthur and I always talk about is being prepared. No doubt you prepared yourself to be where you are today, but what does people need to do to prepare themselves to take that next level of gospel music?
Listen to everything. Don't just listen to your favorite stuff. Don't just listen to the one or two groups. I was never, in those early years, I was never a guy who liked mixed groups. I didn't like family groups. I wanted all-male quartets. But had I not listened to the Happy Goodmans, I wouldn't have heard Rusty. Mm-hmm. So, and Rusty became one of my absolute favorite singers, and then I discovered him with the Plainsmen, and then I was able to really get into what Rusty was doing. So listen to everything and find what works for you. If those early days I'd listened to Gold City, I wouldn't be doing a Gold City reunion because Tim's got an octave on me. So I was able to hone in on what worked for me. So listen to everything. Find what works for you, and then do what George did. I'm telling you, when he told me that, I would go to a ladies' Sunday school class and say, hey, I'm working on a song. Do you mind if I sing it before y'all start Sunday school? Let me tell you something. If you can sing in front of 6 or 8 people, you can sing in front of 8,000 people.
Yeah.
So find every opportunity. Go to those nursing homes when they open back up. Sing for those folks. I was in a nursing home 3 months ago singing. I still do that. That is still what I do. So any chance I get, I sing. And so if somebody says, hey, you want to come sing a song, don't say, nah, have something ready and be ready to do it. And then when somebody calls you, you're good to go. You're ready. You're not sitting around waiting and twiddling your thumbs. Be proactive, and make sure you're doing everything the absolute best you can do it. I'm afraid that too many of us have fallen prey to auto-tuning and stacking and everything else, and it's made some of us lazy. And I just don't ever want that to happen. I've seen it happen with me where I just kind of get lazy and I have to wake myself up. So don't get lazy. Try to do everything the absolute best that God allows you to do it.
Arthur, what you got? Close us out, buddy.
Great advice, pal. Great advice.
Thank you, my friend.
It really is. I'm so proud of you. You've already had an incredible career, and you're still young, and you've got great stuff ahead of you. With the Guardians, you're doing just a fantastic job. Like I said before, I just think what you're doing is brilliant. Just keep it up, and it's just wonderful to see how the Lord has used you and brought you through some things and put you in and just kept His hand on you. And appreciate your life and appreciate your testimony most of all.
Thank you, Arthur.
We love you. Thank you for being. Thanks for letting us have a little fun with you today. It was.
Yeah, we know where you are now. Yeah. He is in Douglasville. Georgia. Yeah, he's in Douglasville, Georgia, singing for the Guardians, and he's doing a great job. Pat Barker here with us on SGNP. Pat, thanks once again, my friend.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Arthur.
All righty.
Beauty and splendor cannot be imagined.
Yes.
You can tell he loves what he does and he takes it serious.
Yep, he does. Does a great job too.
He's a fun guy, but he really takes his craft serious, and that's why he's successful. I really truly believe that. You know, and in life, I think sometimes if I would take things a little bit more serious like he does, I'd be a little bit more successful too.
Well, you know, that's part of it. You know, as long as we take what we do serious, not ourselves as serious,
right?
It makes it it goes a lot easier.
Yeah. And you know what's a good thing about Pat, and I didn't say this in the interview, and I'll say this afterwards, but you know, sometimes we think, man, he'd be good with this. I know a lot of people thought that he would be added eventually onto Greater Vision as our bass singer because he was doing some stuff with them, you know, when they added a bass singer and things like that.
Right.
But he went to the Guardians. And he was the right person for the right job in the right place.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And so many times, how many times in this industry have we seen different singers get matched up with great groups, and there'll be a great group and a great singer, and the piece of the puzzle just not fit? You follow what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And no doubt he had the opportunity to go to a lot of places, but he's going to make himself known right there with the Guardians. And great,
he sure is.
Great job.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, buddy, what's going on? You know, we didn't talk about this at the top of the show, and we had some fun with the COVID thing with the Pat and the where are they now and this, that, and another. But what's going on with you? I mean, what's going on with the you know, the Kingdom Airs and Dollywood? What's the latest information you guys are hearing? Give us inside
scoop. We're just actually, I mean, as of today, it's Tuesday, so we really don't know anymore. You know, we know that the governor has, you know, released the guidelines to where, you know, Dollywood can open, but you know, it's not a thing of going, well, okay, well then we'll open tomorrow. You know, it's a big old corporation. You know,
right?
They have to get prepared for it, and so I think they're in the planning, and so hopefully we'll hear something this week. You know, maybe by the time this comes out on Friday that you know, we'll know a little bit more. But as of right now, you know, we're just kind of waiting still to see exactly what's going to happen, and you know, the nice thing is, you know, Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg are opening up. The shops are opening, the restaurants are opening, the stores are opening. You know, that's a step forward in this process, and so you know, we think it, you know, hopefully won't be but just a few more days, and hopefully we can be back. You know, we just don't know, you know.
Which actually brings me to my next question before we get out of here. And, you know, the Memphis Quartet show got canceled. Yeah. We all heard about that, and we were sad for those guys in the big show they have over there in Memphis. But and please, folks, I know we got, you know, all these listeners, and I love our listeners and I love our fan base, and please don't misquote me on this when I asked Arthur this question, because I'm just asking it because it's something everybody wants to know. Arthur, I know you're not on the board of the NQC. I know that you're not, you know, a board member and have no rankings there, but you live there in Sevilleville, Pigeon Forge. Have you heard any scuttlebucket? Have you heard any talk whatsoever of the National Quartet Convention being postponed, pushed back, or is it just full steam ahead? Have you even heard any rumors whatsoever?
I have not heard anything, and I think that's partly the same. You know, they're in the same boat everybody else is. You know, it's a matter of wait and see. You know, Lord willing, you know, we don't have a setback and have to go, you know, have to step back. But, you know, as of right now, you know, everything's continuing to go forward. And that's, you know, that's several months down the road. And hopefully by then, you know, everything will kind of be back to some kind of normalcy. And, you know, that's the plan, you know, it's the guidelines that the president and staff have put together for us, you know, that in just a few weeks, you know, several weeks, if nothing comes back, you know, in certain areas, our area has been one of those. We'll be able to, just in a few months, we'll be out of this. We'll be able to get back to kind of what, a normal kind of, whatever the new normal will be, and I think that's the issue that nobody's really commenting yet. We're just waiting. We're kind of still in limbo. We're making progress, but we're not enough to where we can say, well, we're going to do this tomorrow, because we don't know.
Can you imagine this? And I'm going to pick on Clark Beasley for just a second. Let's just say we're going to assume the NQC is going on, because it is. No, there's been no word and no comment on that right there. So the NQC is going on. But let's just say they put guidelines on large gatherings, okay? And you had to do a temperature check before you entered the building, okay? Would you want to be the one that sat there and checked all them old people's temperature as they entered the National Quartet Convention and said, okay, you can go, but your temperature's 99.7. You can't go. Could you imagine?
You can't go.
Could you imagine being that person to tell them 65 to 75-year-old ladies, that they couldn't get in to see Arthur Rice in the Kingdom Heirs. They couldn't get in to see Gold City. They couldn't get in to see Ernie Haas. They couldn't get in to see the Guardians. Could you imagine being that person working the door?
No.
It is fun. It is fun. Hey, man, well, where are they now? We don't know who we'll have next week, but thanks again, Pat Barker, for playing with us on that Where Are They Now comment this week. And Arthur, thank you for your time again, as always.
Yeah, buddy.
Man, it's always fun to talk to you. And one last question. What's wrong with living right anyway?
Not a thing.
Not a thing. We'll talk to you next week on SGNP.
SGNP is excited you chose to listen today. If you'd kindly leave a remark and rating in the podcast remarks section, we surely would appreciate it. Please share with a friend or family member. Look for us on Facebook, Twitter, and our new website, SouthernGospelNewsPodcast.com.